it's Monica from Life is Art, and it's Wednesday. Let's create. We've had a busy week so far, haven't we? And happy National or International Women's Day to you all. And we just had our crop this past weekend, which was so wonderful. And we were celebrating National Women's History Month, which is celebrated in the US and Australia and other places around the world in March, and in Canada in October. But it's celebrated in those places because today is International Women's Day. Good evening, Heather. Nice to see you're watching. And so we're going to be creating a card today. And it's kind of a fancier, not fancier, but it's a fancy fold card. And I don't even know what the name of it is. I will see if I can figure out what the name of it is when I post the video later on. Good evening, Joanne. Good evening. But it's not a difficult one. It's a pretty good one. For those of you who don't like too many intricate folds, it's not hard. And it just requires a little bit of scoring and a little bit of cutting. That's all. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. And we're going to be using some of the beautiful collection that we have as our featured collection for the month, which is the Life's a Hoot collection. And it is very beautiful. I am loving the pattern papers in this collection. They all look sort of watercolory and gorgeous. There's nice blues and glaciers and sort of purpley colors in there as well. And so we're going to be using some of the pattern papers as well as the Cardmaking stamp set. We're going to be using those two things to create this card this evening. So we're going to start out with a plain white daisy card base, but that doesn't have to be the color that you choose. That's just what I'm choosing. Good evening, Carol the cat, and you are watching. Woohoo! It's a partnership. And Mom is here too. Hello, Mom. And so this is a card base, but it's not standard size. So this has been cut to 8 by 5.5. So usually we would do 8.5 by 5.5, and then we would end up with a 4.25 by 5.5. But this is 8 by 5.5. So just make a note of that. And it's not one of the pre-scored card bases that I'm using today. It's just a cut piece of white daisy. And I'm going to line it up on my Versamat because I need to do some scoring before we get to any of the folding. We need to do some scoring. So I'm going to line it up with the 8-inch going horizontally. And I'm going to bring in my ruler and my bone folder to do my scoring, but you can use a scoreboard if you like. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to score it at 2 inches, all the way from side to side at 2 inches, just like this. And then I'm going to jump on over and I'm going to score it at 6 inches, but just for those who are curious, it's 2 inches from the outside edge. So we're coming 2 inches in from this side and 2 inches in from this side. So I'm scoring it at 2 and then at 6. And there we go. And then we are going to turn this 90 degrees. So we're going to just whoop, and we're going to put it back down on our Versamat, going the tall way like this. So now this is our 5.5 inch side that's at the top. All right. And then we're going to do a couple more score lines. Sorry. First we're going to cut. We're going to cut. We're not going to score. We're going to cut. So I've got my cutting tool here. And we are going to cut it 1.25 inches in from each side. So let me just get that. It's retractable. So I got to pop it out. So I'm going to come here to 1.25 inches, but I'm not cutting from side to side because then I would just end up with a shorter card. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut in between this score line and this score line. So just in these 4 inches in between our 2-inch and our 6-inch score line. So just going to start here on the one score line and work my way across to the other score line. Oops, I went a little past because I can't see with the bright lights, but that's okay. We'll cover it up with some pattern paper. And then I want to come 1 1/4 inches in from this side, which will put me at 4 1/4. Let me just double check that. Yes, 4 1/4. But if I wanted to, I could turn it around and just do 1 1/4 inches in. And again, I'm only going to score between, I'm only going to cut between the two score lines. So starting at this score line, I'm going to work my way down, and I'm going to stop at this score line down here. Okay? So let's close that up so we don't have any incidents. That would be bad. All right. And now we're going to turn it back to the long way. And we're going to score it at 3 inches. Let's line it up here. But this time, we're only scoring in between the two cut lines. Okay? So we're going to come over to 3 inches, like this. But now I'm only scoring in between my top cut line and my bottom cut line. Okay? So at 3 inches. Score right down there like that. And then we're going to jump over here and we're going to score at 5 inches. Just between those two cut lines. So 5 inches between the top and the bottom. There we go. And then the very last bit of scoring we need to do is at the 4-inch mark, which seems odd that we skipped it there. But this time, we're only scoring from the top edge to the cut line, and then from the cut line to the bottom edge. Okay? Hey, Mary, nice to see you're watching. So we're scoring at the 4-inch line just from the top edge to the cut line, and then come down to the bottom from the cut line to the bottom edge at 4 inches. Okay, and that's all we're going to score. Yay! So we've got our 2 horizontal cuts, 1 1/4 inches from the top and 1 1/4 inches from the bottom. We've got our 2-inch and our 6-inch score lines. Then we've also got the 3-inch and 5-inch score lines just in this cutout part. And then we've got 4 inches top and bottom, but not in the center. Okay, now it's time to do some folding. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just fold in on this first 2-inch score line. And we're going to fold it forwards, which means we're creating a valley fold. Like so. And then we're also going to fold in this side forward along that 6-inch score line, just like that. Make sure it's nice and straight, top and bottom, and crease that down. Okay, so we've got our 2 sides folded in on the 2-inch and the 6-inch score line. And then we're going to fold this score line here at the top by pushing up from behind and squeezing these 2 pieces back together like that. We're just creating a little mountain fold. These are called valley folds because they create a V, and this one's a mountain fold because it creates, well, it's hard to see on that side. Let's do it from the bottom. We're going to push up from the bottom, just in this little bottom part where we have that score line. So we're going to push up and fold it like that. So now we can see that creates a mountain fold because it goes up like that. Now in this center part between the 2 cut lines, we have this 3-inch one and the 5-inch one. And both of these need to be mountain fold. So we're going to push up from behind, and we're going to fold it back. This is kind of doing it roughly. I haven't really creased anything down. And then this one over here, we're going to push up from behind and kind of fold it back like that. Now that we've created all of these folds, you can see that they kind of have a direction. So all we need to do is to push these two back. Actually, if you hold one still and push the other one, slide it until it meets like that. Then we can push down our center bit, and we can push to the side our top and bottom. We can go both ways, just like that. And then let's crease all of those score lines so they're nice and creased. Okay, and then if we open this back up, we have this really fun profile, and you know, we've got sticking out parts and smaller sticking out parts, and it's really kind of fun. But when you go to put it in your envelope, you can just push those two together like that, and then squish that down, and then you can push those both to one side, or you can do one side then the other side. Totally up to you. But now comes the fun part, because we get to decorate it. Woohoo! So we have all these fun surfaces that we can add some decoration to. And so I want to add some papers from the collection that we were talking about, which I've just blanked on the name, Life's a Hoot. So what I need for the sides here is we need, because these are 2-inch sides, we need a piece that is 1 3/4 by 5 1/4 or 5 3/8. I did 5 3/8 just so that the top of my pattern comes up nice and high, and it'll kind of line up with the panel that's going to go in the center. So it's up to you if you like to cut eighths, but I did 1 3/4 by 5. Sorry, I'm holding it down where you can't see. I did 1 3/4 by 5 3/8. And what I did actually was I cut one piece and then cut it in half so that my patterns kind of matched, and I can put them on either side. Doesn't that look cool? So you can do that if you want. You can try and keep your pattern matchy-matchy, or if you have a random pattern, you can just let it be random. Totally up to you. It also depends on the kind of paper you're cutting. If you're cutting just up little scrappy bits, then you get the pieces wherever you can. But if you have a nice big piece, then you can be a bit more choosy. And then we're just going to go ahead and glue that in the center of this first panel. Try and make it straightish. There we go. And then this one we'll glue on the other side. This is actually a really simple card. And you know what? I was just thinking, when we do our 30-minute stash dash, this would be a nice one for the other fancy fold. You can even close it down like that to when you're adding these pieces, if that makes it easier. And just stick this down here, and I will look up what it's called, because for some reason my mind is blanking on what this is called. Perhaps somebody who's watching knows what it's called. Hey Joanne, nice to see you're watching. Love it, can't wait to try it. Awesome. I like to hear that. All right, and then we've got some other pattern pieces, and these are going to go at the top and the bottom. And I used this fun sort of chevron watercolor design, and these have been cut to 1 7/8 by 1 1/8. Okay, 1 7/8 by 1 1/8. And so I'm just going to go ahead and add them on here on these 4 panels. You need 4 of them, because you're going to have 2 at the top and 2 at the bottom. And we'll just line them up like that. I think the colors in this are just so pretty. They're not muted colors. Well, I guess they are kind of muted colors, but they look so watercolory. And I like that effect because I like watercolor painting. And so it appeals to me. Some people might find that they're not bold enough, but you can always jazz them up with some nice bold cardstock too. I could have used Lagoon or grape or Flamingo or even toffee, because these little accents here are toffee. I could have used all of those, Sapphire, to really punch up the color, but I decided to keep it soft and just kind of pretty for this particular card. It's going to be sort of like a Happy Mail card. And as I say, Happy Mail, that reminds me, we are doing the Happy Mail exchange. Sign up right now for the month of March. So if you scroll down in the group, you can see the post there. And if you want to participate, you can go ahead and add your name to the list. I think the deadline is tomorrow. So if you want to participate in that, then we'll need you to sign up quick. All right, now I want to do a little bit of decorating and add a sentiment in the center. So I've actually cut a piece of Lagoon and a piece of White Daisy, and the Lagoon has been cut to 1 7/8 by 2 7/8. So 1 7/8 by 2 7/8, and I will add all the measurements when I post the photos. And then the White Daisy is 1 3/4 by 2 3/4. But I want to do some stamping on this one, and I'm going to grab just a scrap piece of paper here to help me with this. And this stamp set that we're going to be using is the Life's a Hoot Cardmaking stamp set. And it has a few sentiments, which is lovely, but then it has all of these fun designs that you can use that kind of mirror what's happening with the circles, you know, the dashed lines and the stars and things like that. So that's really fun because you can create your own designs as you're working on your projects. So first off, I have this one that makes the sort of splattery goodness that's happening right here. It's nice that they included that in sort of a petite little size. So I'm going to use my Lagoon ink and just ink up this little stamp. And I've got my scrap paper here because I'm going to kind of stamp on the edge. So I'm going to add a little bit of splatter up there. And then add a little bit, maybe I'll spin it around. Add a little bit down here. Oops. A pile of stuff just avalanched beside me. I've got prizes sitting here from the crop that I've got cards and things ready to get in envelopes. And I just jiggled it and knocked it over. So there we go. Add another little splattery bit there. We'll move that out of the way. And now I want to bring in my sentiment. And I'm going to use the Hello Friend. And this is actually one stamp. So it's just one piece. So both words are there. Now if you want, you can take this Hello Friend and you could very carefully trim them apart. So you could have either hello or friend, or you could put them side by side, or you can just mask it to do that. But you can cut our stamps. Just be careful that you don't interfere with the part that has to make the word, right? You gotta be careful. So I'm going to use Sapphire ink to stamp my sentiment on here. I wanted it to be a little bit softer than just the intense black that I usually use. And let's go ahead and add our sentiment here. I'm going to kind of do it off center and a little bit towards the top. And we can move that aside. And then I need to, let me see, I'm going to attach these two together with a little bit of foam tape. So let's add some foam tape on the back of this. And this is the thin foam tape. So it's not going to add too much dimension because we've already got a few layers of cardstock once this is folded up. And so we want it to be reasonable when it's got to go in the postage, in the mail. So let's add a few snips of that thin foam tape. And then we're going to center this on the Lagoon cardstock. Going to try and center it. Going to bring it a little closer to myself here so I can see what I'm up to. And I'll lay it down there like that. Okay, looking all right. And then let's go ahead and add it onto our card. We're going to add it right in the center here in this rectangular panel. Add some glue. And we'll just center it right on there. Like that. I like how that Lagoon kind of pops. And that dark sapphire blue kind of pops. That's looking pretty. Now, I'm not decorating these rectangles here on the side, but you totally could if you want. I just find that when the card is standing up, it's not the most seen spot, you know, it's kind of off to the side if you're looking at it straight on, but you could totally embellish that any way you want. All right, let's grab another stamp here. I want to bring in some circles. You've got the circular theme happening with the pattern paper where we have all these fun watercolor circles. So I took my circles thin cuts and I've used the two smaller ones. So this is the inch and a half die cuts to create three circles. And I've used Glacier, the backside of the Glacier. I have used Ballerina, and I've also used the backside, the lighter side of the Wisteria to create my little circles. And let's bring in some of these fun patterns from the stamp set. So let's open this up. The first one I want to get is this little one down here that's in the middle of the big one. And I'm going to stick it on my block like that. And I want to stamp this up using, I'm going to make a little bit of a diversion here. A diversion, I guess. I'm going to deviate from the plan a little bit. So this is the Wisteria, but I'm going to actually stamp on it in Periwinkle. I was planning tone on tone, but when I did this earlier, I pulled out Periwinkle and used it, and I liked it, so I'm going to stick with that. And then we're just going to stamp that fun pattern on our little circle like that. How quick and easy is that? I'm going to scooch that over so that you can see that a bit better. And then we also want to stamp on the little pink one here. So I'm going to use this little kind of starbursty stamp. And I'm going to use my Flamingo ink on my Ballerina cardstock. And just ink that up. And stamp it in the center, sort of. There we go. And then the last one I want to use is the one that has sort of the outward pointing stitch line almost, is how I would describe it. Sort of a ring of dashed lines like sun rays. And I'm going to stamp it on Glacier using Glacier. So this one is going to be tone on tone. Color on color. Hey, Robin. It was Wednesday. You totally forgot and thought it was Tuesday. That's what happens sometimes. Last week, was it last week? Justin thought it was Friday when it was Tuesday. And then when it was Wednesday, we thought it was Thursday. We were like all over the place last week. It's almost like what happens when you're, between Christmas and New Year's, when you never know what day of the week it is, right? But we were experiencing it not during Christmas or New Year's. Now, the trick with adding any more embellishments on here is that we need to account for what will happen when we fold it down. So I think the easiest thing to do then is to actually fold it down so that you know that everything's going to fit. And perhaps if I bring in a stamp block, that will help it hold down. There we go. All right. So I want to add this little circle kind of up here at the top like this, but I want to add a little bit of foam tape. So I'm going to just grab that same thin foam tape that we had before, and I'm only going to put it on one half of my circle because I want part of it to hang out over the edge. But I want to be cautious that I don't have it going above the edge because I don't know which way it's going to fold down. And so if it folds this way, I'm going to keep this down below the height of the top so that it doesn't interfere, right? So if this comes over here, it doesn't matter. But if you want to make sure that this always folds this way, you could have something that comes up above the edge on one side. Same with the bottom. You could have it come out over the edge or come out over the edge here. But I'm going to avoid doing that just to make my life easier. And then this larger one, I think I'll pop it up with some foam tape as well and have it over here kind of off the edge. So we're kind of expanding our center area a little bit. So I need to add some foam tape to this one as well. And I'm probably working right off the edge of the screen as I do. And we'll add a couple of pieces of foam tape just to that left side. There we go. Take the backing off. And you can be as elaborate or as simple with your decorations as you want. I'm not getting too crazy. Just a few stamped circles and some little smooshes. And easy peasy. And then this one, I want to kind of tuck it under there like that. But I've got my foam tape there. So to solve that problem, I'm going to just trim a little notch off. Nobody will know because we're going to tuck it under. And it'll just disappear. But that'll give me a little bit more room. Oops. Slidey, slidey. You know, you're using liquid glue when. And there we go. So we have two that are popped up and one that's down flat. And then we need a little bit of pizzazz. So let's get some sequins. And I'm going to be using the loose gold sequins. And I noticed the other day when I was looking at the website that this item is listed as low quantity. So if you really like these gold sequins, and if they're still on there, now's the time to acquire some. Because I find, I really like our sequin mixes because when you're decorating like this, as opposed to putting them in a shaker, you get a lot of decorating for not a bad price. So let's add a few dots of glue. I always find this is easiest just to add my glue dots right onto my card. And then I kind of want the more frosty gold. I don't want the really shiny gold. So let's grab this little guy here. I'm using my pickup tool, but my sequin flipped over the wrong way. And stick it in the glue. Let me just do that with my tip, and that'll help help it pick up stuff. And let me see. I want to find a really little one. Here's a little one. Of course, it's upside down. They always have to be upside down. There we go. Oops, where have I put it? It's on the other side. And then maybe one of these little guys. Gonna move the iridescent ones out of the way. There we go. Oh, I got a bubble of glue there. It wasn't just a dollop of glue. It was a bubble of glue. And then over here, what I can do is I can just kind of squish it all down, and I can even add some sequins on these side pieces. So let's add a couple over here. And there we go. And then maybe this guy. Oh my goodness, I'm having a time. It would be even worse if I was trying to pick it up with my fingers, because I would never get it. There we go. The hard part is you get glue. This is supposed to be sticky, but not too sticky. But you get glue on it, because when you stick it into the glue, to glue it to your card, then it gets stuck on there. And there it is. So then let's add a couple more little sequins here. We'll add some down at the bottom. Let me see. Maybe one of these guys. There we go. I love how these look with the toffee designs on there. I think it just looks so pretty. There's another little guy. Let's stick a little guy there. And there we go. We have created our fancy fold card, of which name I do not know. We'll look it up. It's been a while since I since I made these. And when it folds down, you can put it in like this or like this. Either way, it's totally up to you. I kind of always go to the right just because that's easier for sliding in the envelope. And then when it pops up, you just open that up like that, and it stands. It has such a nice profile. And so we started with our white daisy cardstock, created our card base just with some scoring and a couple cut lines. And then we added in the fun watercolor circle paper on either side, the chevrons top and bottom, and then created a little focal point in the center with some Lagoon and some Lagoon ink using that splattery stamp, and then also our little 1 inch and 1.5 inch circles that we cut out of Wisteria and Ballerina and Glacier, and did some inking with the Periwinkle and the Flamingo and the Glacier, and then added our little gold sequins. How pretty is that? I hope you enjoyed seeing that card come together. Hello, Kimberly. Yes, I got my nails done again today. And I hope you try it. Make one, and if you do, take a photo of it and post it in the comments underneath where I post the picture of my card. And I will also include the dimensions when I post the pictures. All right. Have a wonderful evening and a perfect rest of the week, and we will see you again soon. Toodaloo. Bye.